So let's jump into the next topic about how much margin you need to be profitable, right? There is a fallacy and a misconception with big companies, big suppliers in South Africa, where they look at e-commerce suppliers, e-commerce retailers, and they want to give you a lower margin because they believe that you don't have as high overheads as their other brick and mortar retailers. And yes, we're not paying for rent most of the time. We're not paying for retail space in Sandton City, but we still have our overheads and our costs, as we discussed in the previous video. There's big costs to run through the business. So don't let somebody sit across the table and offer you lower margin because you're an online player. Ultimately, you need as much margin as possible. But also, don't let yourself be fooled into this trick that because you're running an online business, you don't need high margin. Don't let people kind of negotiate against you in that way. And also don't allow yourself to accept it. Don't look at products that have low margin, because you're going to give yourself a really difficult situation to sell low margin products online where it's a very competitive landscape and pricing is very transparent, as we know. And now you are selling something where you don't have much room for movement. Anything less than 10% margin, if you're looking at building a business around a product or a service that's giving less than 10%, I would really encourage you to reconsider, because once you add in your credit card fees and your contingency fees and all these other things that are coming about, you're going to be left with very little money, or maybe no money at all at the end of the month. So 10% or less, just don't. 20% and less, I'd even suggest staying away from that. You know, a lot of electronics, they sell, the retailers give you 20% or less. And it's a very competitive landscape, high returns, and 20% is going to be difficult to make money. I mean, ultimately, in today's day and age, you want to be getting as high a margin as possible, like 40, 50%, 60% margin products. You can do that, you know, look overseas in terms of your suppliers. Go to Alibaba, try and negotiate wherever you possibly can to get as big a margin as possible. I would say, in terms of answering the question of this course, this topic about how much profit or how much margin you need to be profitable, I'd say as a bare minimum 25% GP, gross profit, off the sale. And that then gives you the room to negotiate occasionally with customers to get the sale. It also leaves you with that extra fat in case you make mistakes, because you will make mistakes. Which also reminds me, I mentioned a contingency fee, which is not something we spoke about in the last video, but when you're thinking about your costing, add a 5% contingency, because you will make mistakes and invoices will arrive that you didn't expect. And if you don't have a contingency fee set aside, then a big invoice from something that you weren't expecting, it could actually send you under. So build a bit of fat into your pricing, save some for a rainy day, and just make sure that your margin is as high as you can possibly get it. So just in terms of closing up on this topic, again, I want to re-emphasize the importance of staying on top of your numbers and involving your accountant. Do a cash flow forecast and a financial forecast, so that you know, like, if I'm selling X amount of products and I'm getting X amount of profit, what are the next 3 years going to look like for me? Because that also helps you to understand your bigger goals, like how profitable am I? Do I need to drive to be more profitable? Do I need to get more products in that I can sell a bigger quantity, or should I ditch a supplier so I can find a better supplier with a higher margin? If you've got that forecast, then you've got insight into where your roadmap is going and where your business is going. And that's going to become super invaluable to you in terms of growing your business and becoming more and more successful. So just stay on top of that. As a last tip, 2 tips I want to offer you. The first one is I'd suggest using Xero, which is a cloud-based accounting system, and it plugs into most e-commerce website platforms today. What happens is that as a customer creates an order, that order is replicated on Xero. It brings in the cost price of the product, and it just does everything in a real-time basis. It just leaves less room for error, and you're going to have more accurate reporting at the end of the day. The second tip, in terms of, you know, I keep saying stay on top of the numbers, but if I haven't been clear enough on how to do that, then in the course notes below, you can find a margin calculator, which you can use to have a really good, firm understanding of the margin that you're going to be making. And if it's above 25%, we're looking good. Anything way higher than that, awesome. Anything way lower than that, reconsider, renegotiate, and try and fight for every point of margin that you can get. But ultimately, let's just wrap up by revisiting the 3 things. Sell at as high as you possibly can in a reasonable way. Negotiate to buy as low as you possibly can while not compromising on product quality and supplier reputability. And then keeping your costs as lean as possible so that it doesn't eat up that margin that you've worked so hard to get. If you can do those three things properly, you're going to have a profitable business, and we're going to see and talk to each other a lot in the future, and I'm looking forward to that.